Atlanta news first. Plus, starts now with the First Alert Weather Day.
Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? It's Thursday. Did you make it through the storms last night? They were pretty bad. We had a lot of people waking up without power. We even had a spin-up tornado last night, which I'll tell you what, I did not see that coming. So we're in for more strong storms today. I have the wrong clicker, so I'm gonna have to go get the right clicker. Hey, Maria, can you go in the, there should be a clicker with 1 and 2 on it. So today I wanted to do something a little different. Usually we just give you guys a forecast and don't really get into the nitty gritty, but I know a lot of you are like just really weather savvy. I can't believe how many people know how to look at the model data, know what Euro and GFS is, and really like to do their own weather forecasting. So I kind of wanted to dig in a little bit further today and show you one of the main things that I use to forecast. It's called a Skew. And I am in love with Skew, baby. Okay? Thank you. So we're going to go through, I'm just going to take you through the kind of the routine forecast, and then we're going to stop in the middle of it and actually look at a Skew, okay? It's not going to be as hot today. That's good news. Strong storms are likely again this afternoon. The severe threat is slightly lower, and I bet you're wondering, how do you know that? It's because of the Skew. It's what I use every day. And I'm actually going to, let me just show you guys what I'm talking about. This is my Skew page I use. It's called Earl's Skew page. So you, right here, I'm putting in KATL, which is Atlanta. And I'm going to go to, you can pick which model data you want, submit it, send anyway. So we're going to deep dive this in a second, but I just want to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about when I say a Skew. This is a Skew. I bet you're like, what in the, is that? Yeah, look at that. I can tell everything about the atmosphere from this. Okay, we're going to get into it in just a second. But starting you out, it's 10 degrees, 11 degrees. Wow, cooler than yesterday. So that's great. And with less heat in the atmosphere, you don't have as much instability. You're not going to get as strong as storms, okay? Still going to be hot, low 90s, but it's not going to be unbearable. You can see that heat is still widespread across the eastern United States. There's still heat advisories for millions of Americans, the entire Tennessee Valley, much of the Ohio Valley, parts of the Carolinas, Virginia, Maryland, and just northwest portion of our viewing area. So up towards Chattanooga is under heat advisory. Not really sure why. And I asked the National Weather Service this morning. They're like, we thought that maybe the dew points would be higher there. They're not higher. So really, I think you're not going to see dangerous heat today. We're still under that high pressure, but we got that low moving in. It's the reason that we saw the storms yesterday, and there's still remnant moisture in place, which is why we're going to see additional storms today. You can see some showers moving across Tennessee. It is mostly dry here now. This is the storm timing, and I will say the 12Z HER, which is the model that just updated, is bringing storms only to North Georgia, only to the mountains and North Metro. So the latest data does keep storms out of areas south of the city, but I'm unconvinced that that's going to happen, okay? So here's my best timing on the storms today. It's going to be earlier in the day. 2 to 6 p.m. for the mountains, 3 to 7 for Metro Atlanta. If the storms do reach south of the city, it will be between 6 to 10 tonight. So let me show you what I'm talking about. You can see this is the HER, the latest model of the HER, and you can see the storms forming in the mountains, dipping down into Metro, North Metro, but you can see most of them stay from Metro Atlanta to the north through the evening. Not too bad, but here's why I don't believe that model, and I'm going to take you back to the Skew. Okay. Can you guys see my mouse on here? Okay, you can. Great. Okay. So this is a Skew. It's basically what happens, and I'm going to make myself bigger here. So we have weather balloons, right? Weather balloons go up twice a day across many parts of the country, and they go through the entire atmosphere, and they measure temperature, dew point temperature, the wind speed, the wind direction, and then that becomes a plot, and that plot is the Skew. It's from the weather balloons, and from that plot, and the numbers that come out from it, we can tell if there's going to be tornadoes. We can tell how large the hail's going to be. We can tell how unstable the atmosphere is. We can tell if the storms are going to have really strong winds, or if they're going to be really slow moving, or if the flood threat is high. All from Skew Tees, all from weather balloons. This is why weather balloons are so important. I could get on my high horse about that, but I'm not going to. Okay, let's talk about Skew Tees. And can I make this bigger? Okay, here we go. So, first and foremost, this is the time that it's diagnosing the atmosphere for, which is 0Z on Friday, which is tonight at 8 p.m. So you are looking at a predicted profile of the atmosphere 8 p.m. tonight, which is when storms are the most likely. I could also click off and click on 3 hours earlier, which would be around 6, well, let's do 5 p.m., okay? The number one thing I look at is this LI. This is the lifted index number. It's negative 7.6. That is a really good tool to diagnose how unstable the atmosphere is. The closer you get to negative 10, the more unstable the atmosphere. And I can tell you guys, I've been working in Atlanta a decade. I rarely see the lifted index below negative 5. Once you start getting to negative 6, negative 7, certainly negative 8 and 9, the atmosphere is extremely unstable. You can see this number, negative 7.6. I'm going to make this bigger. Can I make it bigger? Okay. So that number out of the gate tells me that the atmosphere is extremely unstable. Also, the CAPE, the convective available potential energy. This number right here is really, really indicative of how unstable the atmosphere is. The CAPE, which I will show you guys in just a minute with a graphic, the closer that you guys, if the CAPE's above 2,500, you know that you're going to have a lot of lightning, electric storms. If the CAPE's above 3,000, we only see that maybe 20, 30 times a year, okay? The more heat that you have, the hotter in the summer, the higher the CAPE is going to be. But when you have CAPE, and let's see, let me go back to this. When you have CAPE here, that's above 4,000, that means there is so much energy. It's measured in joules, so it's a measure of energy. When it's above 4,000, y'all, that tells you there is so much instability in the atmosphere. These storms are going to be hyper-electric, okay? Another thing I look at a few lines down is the DCape or the downdraft cape, and that is the energy that could come out of the storms when the rain starts, okay? So the downdraft cape also tells me how strong the winds could be, the downdraft downburst winds. If you have downdraft cape that's over 800, you're probably gonna get some severe winds, okay? Yesterday, it was almost 2,000, which was one of the highest downdraft cape numbers I've ever seen. Today, it's a little bit less than that, and that is because it's just not as hot. 1164, though, is still a pretty high number for the downdraft cape, which tells me we're likely to see damaging winds in these storms, okay? Another thing that I look at is the profile. So if you see the dotted line to the straight line, that is the cape profile. You can see it's a big, thick cape profile. See this V right here? This is called an inverted V. So the dotted line here that I'm dragging my mouse, that is the dew point temperature, and the regular line is the actual temperature. And you can see the difference between the dew point temperature and the actual temperature. This inverted V tells me that at mid-levels of the atmosphere, it takes a while for the atmosphere to get saturated, which basically means we could have hail. Okay, when you have that inverted V, that is like a really big signal for hail. So when I see this indicates to me that any storms that do start producing damaging winds are also probably going to have some hail. And then I go down here to the hail. It's predicting 0.4 inches. That's non-severe. And I'll tell you, a lot of times in Atlanta, we get 0.4 to 0.7. If you start to get hail at 1 inch or higher, that's severe hail. Another thing I look at. Are you guys learning? You guys learn a lot. Another really huge indicator of whether or not we're going to see severe weather on the Skew is the convective temperature. The convective temperature is the temperature that the atmosphere needs to reach in order for it to be unstable enough for storms. So sometimes there's a lot of instability in the atmosphere, but we're just not going to get above the convective temperature, which means the atmosphere is going to be capped or it's going to be stable. So there's conditional instability, but unless we hit that temperature mark, we're not going to tap into it. Today, the convective temperature is very low. It's 88.4. Our forecasted high is 93. So it's almost guaranteed that we're going to hit that convective temperature. So once we hit that temperature, the atmosphere is unstable enough to tap into all of that energy, Cape at 4,000, in order for us to see the storms. So again, this number, this convective temperature, is very, very conducive to severe weather. Other things that we look at, the lapse rate, I won't get into that. The higher, the closer that you are to 10 is the faster the parcels are going to evaporate, and that means a higher risk of instability. We also look at the shear direction and the EHI. Those are really good in the spring for, they indicate the rotation in the atmosphere. So they're good when you're trying to predict tornadoes. The LCL, also great for tornado prediction. The LCL is the lowest cloud layer, okay? So how high up will the cloud layer be? In the springtime, when you have a cloud layer that is only a couple thousand feet off of the ground, or in meteorological terms, somewhere at like 975 to 950 millibars, we measure height in millibars, then you have a very low cloud base, which means it's going to be pretty easy for a tornado to come out of the cloud. Today, look at the cloud level. I'm going to make this bigger again. See the LCL at 853 millibars. 850 millibars is 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. So when you have an LCL at 850 millibars, that's telling me that the lowest cloud level is at 5,000 feet, which means it would be really hard to get a tornado to come down 5,000 feet. So the lower the LCL, the higher the tornado threat. And because the LCL level is so high today, I do not think that we're going to see tornadoes. So again, there's so much data here. If you guys are trying to become little weather nerds and you want to learn a lot, this is going to be your best friend. All of this information, all of this data here can tell you the potential for severe weather, the potential for tornadoes. Also, something that we did not even talk about. Let me get this. Is the hodograph. So this whole part over here is the turning of winds with height. And when you have severe storms that kind of have a hook or a question mark, that means that the tornado threat is really high. You can see it's a measure of the winds with height, and you can see that the winds are so weak that they stay in the innermost circle. That tells me, again, one, that the tornado threat is very low, and two, that these storms that pop up are going to be slow movers. They're not going to have a lot of shear, which means they could rain over an area for hours and hours, which means the flood threat is a little bit higher. So again, Skew teas, y'all, I'm telling you, they're the way. They're the way of severe weather. If you are really into weather, go to Habe Hints, okay? Great website. I studied all of Habe Hints when I was working on my CBM. He has a lot of stuff about Skew teas on there, or you can just do a regular Google searches about Skew teas and learn how to read them. It's the best tool for severe weather, straight up. Cool? All right, let's continue on with the forecast. I just got really into that. Can you tell how into that I was? Holy cow. Like, you guys should have seen me on my balcony last night. I was having a time watching the downburst form. Okay? All right, wrong clicker. Wow. Okay. So, microburst storms, very frequent in the summertime. And we just talked about the microburst potential using the Cape, okay? Using the downdraft Cape. It's winds coming out of a storm. Basically, when you have, in the summer, significant heating at the surface, so you're going to have really fast evaporation happening. Your lapse rates are going to be high. When you have winds going into or the updraft of the storm, because the evaporation is happening so quickly, you can have updrafts of like 80, 90 miles per hour. And when clouds form that quickly, then the downdraft has to equal the updraft. You guys know what goes up must come down, basic laws of physics. So you can have these downdrafts or the winds coming out of these storms with the rain shaft. They can hit the ground at like 100 to 150 miles per hour and spread out in all directions. And they can cause damage that's similar to tornadoes. We see them frequently in the summer because it gets so hot. Those are microburst storms. And that's what we saw last night. It's the reason many people woke up without power. And it was because it was so hot. The hotter it is, the more likely you are to have those significant windstorms. Does that make sense? Hope it does. So I went with a moderate risk of damaging winds today, a little bit less, just to emphasize the risk is a little bit lower than yesterday because the temperature's a little bit lower. I still think we're going to have a really high risk of lightning with any storms today because the Cape is still so high. There's still all that energy, right? Low risk of tornadoes. And I went with a low risk of hail. The mid-levels of the atmosphere just aren't cool enough to promote hail, but I still think we could see some penny-sized hail, okay? This is the Cape, and this is what we showed. This is, okay, so look, I'm going to go back to the Skew T. Where's she at? Where's she at? No. All right, the Cape, remember this number that we talked about over here, 4077? This is a visualization of the Cape. You see how with the heating of the day, see how the Cape starts to really pop off. The energy level gets really high, especially across North Georgia. That tells you how much energy is in the storm and then how likely the severe storms are supposed to be. So today I think that the most organized or biggest severe threat, most organized severe threat will be north of the city. And then you can see after the storms move out, it basically sucks all the energy out of the atmosphere. So you can see those storms in North Georgia. You can see a lot less energy. That's after the storms move through tonight. Pretty interesting, right? Might not be interesting to y'all, but look, there's 21 of y'all still watching. So I think some of you guys think this stuff is interesting. Seems like you guys like when I kind of get a little nerdy. So I'll do more of that. We'll do more Skew Ts. I'll show you guys some of the other like atmosphere stuff that I look at every day for severe weather next time we have a threat, okay? I will say, because the heat is going to be a little bit less in the coming days, our severe threat is also going to be slightly less. But you guys know with these summertime thunderstorms, you can get 1 or 2 strong storms every day. That's probably going to happen through the weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not a washout. I'm going with a 40% chance of rain. But it is likely that at some point each day, either where you are or close around you, there's a storm happening, okay? But severe risk looks a little bit lower. As we head into next week, and I know you guys are really keen on what's going to happen next week because guess what? It's the 4th of July. We are going to see a cold front pass. Sometime Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to try to pass. Rodney and I were talking about this today. In the summer, the jet stream is so far north. Maybe that's what I'll go through tomorrow. That we don't have winds to force these fronts through. So they just stall out a lot. That's what we're going to see Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So that's why we have a 60% chance of storms, because it looks like it's going to be pretty wet and cooler middle of the week next week. What happens on 4th of July is going to be highly dependent upon whether or not that front passes through. If it doesn't, we're going to be in this really moist air mass. We're probably going to see storms all day. If it does, we could get 1 or 2 dry days just in time for July 4th. Okay? So it's something I'm going to be watching closely. I did say to all of our viewers this morning that I would start to give a little preview for the 4th of July forecast tomorrow. So I will do that for you guys. And we'll probably dig a little bit deeper into, I'll show you like GFS Euro. We'll dig into the 4th of July forecast tomorrow. I'll show you what I'm seeing. Cool? Okay, y'all. Gosh, I just talked for 20 minutes about Skew Ts. And I could go for... Our digital, Maria's loving that. I could go for 45 more. I should start charging y'all for severe weather lessons. All right. Okay, guys, I'll see you tomorrow on Atlanta News First at 6. Your full 4th of July breakdown will be at 11 a.m. tomorrow on First Alert Weather Plus. See you then.
Stay up to date on your latest weather from the largest team of meteorologists in the Southeast. Download the First Alert Weather app for hour-by-hour forecasts and join us every weekday at 11:30 a.m. on ANF+. You can also text weather to the number on